In January 2019, I started an Instagram page dedicated to gaming, retro gaming, and building a gaming community. That community is currently over 3,000 people strong, which is absolutely mental. And in the time I've had my page open, I've received numerous questions from certain followers regarding my name, TheFormerGamesTester. So I thought I'd do a very quick video answering those questions for those people. Those questions include: who did you work for? How long did you test? Would I know any of the games you tested? How much did you get paid? And the slightly bizarre question from my old PE teacher, Mr. Miller, who asks, do you have a picture of you in those little blue shorts you used to wear in PE class? There was probably a very good reason why Mr. Miller asked that question. He was a very intelligent man. The last I heard, he'd left teaching and went to work for the Forestry Commission as he was operating on yew trees or something. Anyway, time for the questions! So let's start right at the beginning with question 1. Who did you work for? I always feel slightly like I'm being interviewed by the Gestapo when I get asked that question, but the simple answer is Sony. I worked for Sony. I tested on PlayStations. I was there at the beginning, the end of the PlayStation 1 era, and I moved on to the PlayStation 2 era, and towards the end of my career as a games tester, we were just heading into PS3 territory. There were 3 big sort of corporations that Sony had around the world. So there was the place where I worked, which was Sony Computer Entertainment Europe, which covered the middle bit of the map, I suppose you could call it. That was obviously abbreviated to SKI, which is the thing you do down snowy hills with planks of wood stuck to your feet. There was Sony Computer Entertainment America, which was over the other side, which dealt with that side of the map. They were abbreviated to Skia, which sounds like a yogurt. And then there was Sony Computer Entertainment Japan, which dealt with the other side of the world. And they were abbreviated to Skeege, which is the noise your car makes when you press the brakes too hard. It's a joke. Question number 2. How long did you test for? This is a really, really simple question because I arrived and left on the same date 4 years apart. So it was the 1st of September 2001 to the 1st of September 2005. And like I say, back end of the PS1, solidly PS2, very, very start to PS3. So it was around that area I tested for. So 4 years. Question number 3, and it's the big one. How much did you get paid? This question always gets asked. It doesn't matter whether people are into games or not. This question will always get asked because people can't quite believe that you get paid to do things like that. It's not what you think it's going to be. It's a lot less. I started on September the 1st, 2001, as I said before. When I started on £8,500. That's a year, okay? That's a year. Nowadays, you simply couldn't live off that wage. If you've got a mortgage, if you've got a car, if you've got a cat, a dog, a fungal infection, it doesn't matter. You cannot live off £8,500 a year. It doesn't work. But that was right at the start of my games testing career, and I was on a 3-month rolling contract. So I went from £8,500, and after 3 months, I went to £9,500. I know, someone stopped this roller coaster. I need to get off. And then when I left in 2005, I had reached the dizzying heights of £11,500. Now, I believe that is around about national minimum wage for this year, 2019. So when I left after 4 years of work with Sony, I left on today's national minimum wage. So I hope that's cleared up a few things with regards to pay when it comes to games testing. It's not particularly well paid because there's a queue a mile long to get out the door to get in there. So they know that if you don't want to do it for the money, they'll get someone else in. That was basically the rule. And for the final question, would I know anything that you tested? I would put money on you guys knowing some of the games that I've tested. Not only the games, you might have tested them if you're of a certain generation, but you'll definitely know some of the franchises that I tested. The beauty of where I worked at Sony was that I worked in a place called QA2, which was American and Japanese games that came into the country that needed localization testing. So, for instance, the Americans spell things slightly differently than we do in Britain. So the game would come in and we would test it to see that all the localization testing had been done and to make sure all the glitches are out of the game. So they were near enough full builds of the game when they came in. So I'm going to go through the games that I tested. Hopefully you recognise a few of them, or even played a few of them. I'm going to save the big hitters, the big ones, until the last, just to keep you hanging on. I have got a sheet of paper to remind me because I'm getting old and my memory's going. So I'm going to go through them and I'm going to use an animation just so you don't see me reading a piece of paper. So let's start with the kids section. These are games designed for children, obviously. Sony had a tie-in with Disney at the time. So these are games predominantly tied in with Disney. There was Peter Pan, Lilo and Stitch. There was a game called My Street that a lot of people might not recognise, Treasure Planet, and Monsters, Inc. Moving on to the music and rhythm section, because I've got so much of it. Space Channel 5 and Space Channel 5 2. Now, I don't remember that being released over here in Britain. You can still get it. I've looked on eBay. You can get a copy of it. Res, Amplitude, and Frequency. And those were two fantastic games that I really enjoyed testing at Sony in my time there. In the sports section, there wasn't a lot of games that came in sports-wise. There was Hot Shot Golf, which was otherwise known as Everybody's Golf, and Smash Court Tennis. In the racing section, we had Jak X Combat Racing. That's part of the Jak and Daxter series. GT Prologue, GT Concept, and GT4. In the action and adventure section, we had a game called Headhunter, War of the Monsters, Shinobi, Pac-Man World, The Mark of Kree, Siren, or Forbidden Siren as it was called, Ace Combat, and Siphon Filter. A few big names in there that I'm sure a few people might recognise. And now on to the big hitters. These are the games that people will probably recognise most franchise-wise. You might not have played them, but you'll certainly recognise them, I would have thought. There was SOCOM 1 and 2, Ape Escape 2, where I featured as a monkey, Sly Raccoon, The Thievius Raccoonus, and Sly Raccoon 2, Jak and Daxter, Jak 2, Ratchet and Clank, Ico, Final Fantasy 9, and the final big two, Kingdom Hearts, the very first one, and the very first God of War. So those were the games I tested. They've got my name in the back of those books. Do any of those ring any bells to you? Did you play any of them from the start, or have you gone back to play any of them recently? Do any of them hold any special places in your heart? I know a few of them do for me. Gran Turismo 4 was obviously a big one for myself. And Gran Turismo 4 is oddly the reason I got placed into Ape Escape 2 to feature as a monkey. I'll probably do that another video on that one. I always loved the Jak and Daxter series, the Ratchet and Clank series, the Sly Raccoon series. They were always fantastic. But obviously Kingdom Hearts and God of War stick out quite massively with regards to me thinking back to my testing days. So that was it. They're the most common questions I get asked from people on social media and in normal life when people find out that I used to test computer games. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, by all means get in touch. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all under the same name as TheFormerGamesTester. Come and join one of the communities, and I hope to see you in another one of my videos. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.